Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Hello, Alex. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, I like to start off this podcast with asking everyone the same question because I find it very interesting. And that is, how do you describe yourself and what you do?
I'll start with what I do because I feel like that's a little bit easier and more concrete.
Sure.
So I kind of have two professional projects that I'm working on right now. One is I work on the site howtowatch.com. We just launched about a month ago, and the whole site is dedicated to helping people find ways to watch their TV content that's not cable. So we're trying to help people save a little bit of money and have a little bit more control over how they're watching things and what they're watching and kind of only paying for exactly what they want. And so I'm helping a lot with building that site out and trying to get the word out about it, as well as sharing a lot of the knowledge that we've built up as a team working on that and our previous site. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I'm doing, I do a lot of freelance writing, as in like I write something freelance pretty much every day of a normal work week. And I mostly write for consumer tech publications, so places like TechHive and PC World. A little bit of other kind of brands. Then how I would describe myself is obviously I'm an artist and I consider myself an entrepreneur even though I'm working for a site that I don't own right now. Mm-hmm. And I've been a musician my whole life. I'm a comic book fan and an artist, like visual artist, and a huge TV addict. So it's probably the most basic way to describe myself.
Sure, okay. There's a lot there. So let's start with my important question at the top, and that is, I want to watch Cobra Kai on YouTube, but I don't want to pay for it because I think that's stupid. Is there a way to do that for free without having to pay YouTube for their stupid extra channel?
I mean, YouTube is a little bit weird because they haven't been in the streaming for all that long, and so they hold their content pretty tightly. So where with HBO, you might not have to pay specifically for HBO's service because it's like the whole network and you can get it in other streaming services or whatever. Mm-hmm. YouTube, because it's kind of newish to the game and they've got the whole YouTube Red thing, that's kind of your option right now.
Oh, that's so annoying. Because it doesn't, I mean, so I watched the first two episodes that were free, and mm-hmm. it's good enough for me to go, okay, I'll watch more. It's not good enough for me to go, I'm going to pay money for this because I don't watch YouTube enough to care enough to pay money.
I do feel like that's what a lot of web series are. Like, there's some really quality web content out there, but most of it I'm not really willing to pay for because obviously they don't necessarily have the budgets or whatever backing it to be worth me putting money into. But also I grew up with all the Karate Kid stuff, so I'm torn because I keep seeing the commercials for it and wanting to try it out, but I just haven't gotten around to it. So, yeah.
Well, if you
Sorry, I ought to look on that one.
No, that's all right. I know eventually it's going to be leaked somewhere on the internet, so I'll wait for that to happen because it's not one of those things.
Things are usually leaked on YouTube.
That's
true.
I don't
think you're going to be able to
that's a good question. Where do YouTube leakers go to leak content? Would it be like on Vimeo or something, maybe?
I don't even know. I'm not in the, secret streaming game, usually. Legal above board streaming most of the time.
Yeah, so. That's good then. Okay, so before we go more into depth on your current project, let's back up a little bit. And because you've mentioned that, you're a musician and an artist, mm-hmm. What first got you interested in the arts?
Oh, man, I think I have a story like a lot of people's where when I was really young, found that I was okay at drawing, and I'm not an amazing visual artist now. I still feel like I'm sort of okay or slightly above average, but it was something that I loved, and the whole kind of cheesy form of self-expression or whatever, and I was like this weird, shy kid. So I really liked drawing, and I loved comic books, still do, so I would try to draw superheroes and create my own. And I think with a lot of the arts, when you do one, you bleed into other things. So I drew a lot, and then I read a lot, and those things, the skills you learn in one helps the other. And then I started playing violin when I was about 11, which is late for a lot of people to start playing if they're going to keep playing. But having done a lot with language and reading and writing and drawing, all of that stuff, I think helped me to be able to pick it up pretty quickly. And then after that, it's a lot easier once you've learned one instrument to pick up other instruments. So my journey was sort of just one thing leading to another thing to another thing. And all of those things combining to create basically what was my high school, junior high experience. Those very formative years were really shaped by my arts. So, like, my best friends were people from orchestra and youth symphony, and, you know, the people, like, I had a comic strip in junior high that I would do, like, a weekly kind of thing. It was not that well masked of, like, a gossip column, but comic book form. And that was, like, how I made half my friends in junior high, because people would, like, anticipate this. Got to keep up on the gossip and make these comics about it. So anyway, a lot of what led me to where I am now, doing a lot of writing, and a lot of the friends that I still have to this day are because of what I did with the arts when I was younger.
Oh, very cool. So where would you get your gossip to put in the weekly comic book column?
Well, that was the thing, is because, like I said, I was very shy, and it really forced me to try to make friends with people that I knew had all the details. So, not that I, like, only made friends because I thought that they were gossipers, but definitely finding people that were well connected, and then they were friendly, so I'd have to be friendly to be friends with them, and it pushed me a lot quickly for a very dumb, very shallow reason to go from being super shy and nerdy and not having a ton of friends to being a lot more outgoing. And then the kind of, they were never mean gossip comics. That makes it sound terrible, but like the people that were in them knew that they were in them. But yeah, but then just kind of being able to make friends with people to the point that I felt comfortable writing comics about them and keeping up on their, like, the dating lives of junior high students and stuff.
Wow, that sounds, well, I was going to say boring, but also kind of a little bit interesting. And it's probably because I haven't been in junior high for many, many years. But
same. Yeah, I found a couple of them, like, not that long ago. I was cleaning out my closet at my parents' house, and I found a box of, like, a bunch of old papers, and I found these, like, special edition comics I'd done on neon-lined paper.
Yeah.
And they were so dumb. Like, at the time, it was, like, the coolest thing, and I was, like, so into it. And now I'm, like, nothing ever happened. Like, this is so stupid. But, like, it was obviously a big part of my life when I was 13 years old, so.
Yeah, no, that's you know, the things that I thought were fantastic at 13, and I think I still have some, like, copies of random stuff that I did. You know, it means a lot when you're that age. A lot of things mean a great deal, and so I probably would have loved having. I was also into comics way back then, and I wasn't really creating comic book stuff, but I would have loved to do that when I was in junior high. So good job on that one. So, but okay, so after junior high, or after high school, then what did you study in college?
I actually have a bachelor's in entrepreneurship, which is a very weird thing that people ask me about all the time. Why would you major in entrepreneurship when at the time I did not want to create a startup? Still don't really want to start my own company at the moment. People always ask me about that, but that was the right call for me. So
sure.
Yeah, kind of a weird major. Sure.
Yeah, so that leads to a good question. Why did you major in entrepreneurship? No, I mean, and I mean this with all sincerity, because it's, and this comes from somebody who created a kind of entrepreneurship program for a university.
For sure.
And so it's an interesting idea to study entrepreneurship, whereas most people who run entrepreneurship programs have never been entrepreneurs themselves, only studied entrepreneurs. So what was the experience like in your program, and why did you choose entrepreneurship versus like going to like studying a business major or communications?
For sure. So at my university, which is the University of Utah, our entrepreneurship program was part of the business school. And I had gotten involved when I was a freshman in this program that's basically our business school's version of an honors program.
Okay.
And I loved it. There's like tons of international travel and people that I really loved. And I tried a couple other business majors and nothing was really fitting. And I think part of that was because so many of them are really like math heavy and use skills that I didn't have or didn't care about that much and didn't really want to develop. And I was looking for something that would allow me to be a little bit more creative. And the University of Utah also has a really, really good entrepreneurship program that isn't part of one of the colleges. So anyone, it's like the Lausanne Entrepreneurship Institute is what it's called. And anyone on campus can join it. And there are tons of, like, you can meet with experts or people that have their own startups, and you can have, like, office space on campus, which is super cool. And I got involved with that through some friends when I was like kind of the end of my sophomore year, beginning of junior year, and loved it. Like all the people there were kind of trying to start their own companies, and it was definitely not my scene at all. But I thought it was super cool what everyone was doing, and I was seeing patterns of like the skills that people are trying to develop here are skills that people need even if they're not starting a company. And like the things that they were learning were things that I had not learned in my other normal classrooms. And started looking into doing entrepreneurship as a major, knowing that I really valued those entrepreneurial skills, even if I wasn't thinking of starting a company right after I graduated or whatever. So I switched into the major, had many, many conversations with my parents about it, and a lot of other people, because I always was like, that's so dumb, why would I do that? And it was such a good decision, like having nice classes that I could shape to be what I wanted them to be, and we could work on our own projects and get class credit for them. And the people that were in there were really creative, interesting people, and I feel like the skills that I learned in there, because I'd already had so many credits of generals, and my business school kind of required prerequisite courses that I think I had gotten enough of that traditional academic experience that these extra like entrepreneurship skills were so useful to me, especially that last like year and a half I was in college that I was basically taking only those classes. I think that's like a huge reason why now I have the confidence to be like pursuing freelancing projects and working on things that I care about. Like I said, how to watch, like I'm a TV enthusiast, like that site is very TV oriented, and I'm able to, I think, feel like I can pursue the topics and projects that I want to do. Whereas otherwise I think I might have tried to pursue something a little bit more traditional and corporate and probably wouldn't have felt as fulfilled right now, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes tons of sense. Thank you. So what did you do after you graduated?
So I have been graduated from college a little over a year, so there hasn't been a lot of time to do stuff. Yeah.
So it's been kind of a okay. Well, let's ask a different question then.
Yeah.
So you work for a company now. I'm curious how so did you have when you interviewed for this position, was it a traditional type of interview where you sat down and like gave out your resume type of thing? Or did you happen to know somebody who already worked there?
It was a traditional. So when I interviewed, it was for the site cutcabletoday.com, which is now transitioning to How to Watch. And I applied for it because it sounded like something that I was into. Like I said, the TV topic is something I'm into. And the role was going to be doing a lot of writing and a lot of kind of traditional PR stuff, which I was into. So it was a traditional interview in some ways, and in some ways, like, they were asking me questions about, like, TV shows and things like that, which was the dream for me.
Sure.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Did the subject of what you studied in college come up, and what was their initial reaction to it?
It did come up, and I think that was a big reason why I work there now.
Oh, okay.
Because
So they saw it as an asset.
For sure.
Okay.
And I work on a team of people that are all really creative, all super dedicated, really well qualified, really interesting people. We were able to launch a site really quickly from when we started working on it because all these people are amazing, totally amazing. But all of them are super different creative thinkers. We've got someone who's like working on her own book right now, and people who are like doing their own design projects outside of work and all this stuff. So I think having that sort of atypical education